So today we're going to look at the show me, tell me questions. The questions that you're going to be asked on your driving test by your examiner. They're basically about general maintenance of your car. Now they are quite basic, so it's really good for you to learn what your car is telling you. You need to check if your oil level is correct, if your engine coolant level is correct, if your brake fluid level is correct, if your tires pumped up correctly. Are they legal to drive on? Is there enough tread depth on your tires? Just general basic maintenance, so you know the car is safe to drive on the roads. So you'll be asked two questions, one show me and one tell me. The show me one will be done while you're driving, but the examiner will say when it's safe to do so to begin with, and then he'll ask you the question. So the tell me questions are quite easy. The examiner will ask you the question and you just got to explain what you need to do. Simple as that. Let's look at all the questions one by one. So question number one is, show me how you know your brakes are working before you start a journey. So the brakes should not feel spongy or slack. The brakes should be tested as you move away, and the vehicle should not pull to one side or the other when you're braking. So the spongy or slack, when you press the brake pedal should feel nice and firm. If it feels like a sponge, you know it's traveling down way too much, there's a problem with your brakes. Get them checked out by your mechanic. So you can test your brakes as soon as you drive away. So you can move forward a tiny bit, test the brakes to make sure they're all working. And it shouldn't pull to the left or to the right hand side either. So question number two is, tell me where you'd find the information for the recommended tire pressures for this car and how the tire pressure should be checked. So you can look in the manufacturer's guide, use a reliable pressure gauge, check and adjust your tire pressures when the tires are cold, don't forget the spare tire, and remember to refit the valve caps once you're done. So most cars do come with a manufacturer's guidebook, and you should be able to find the information for the tire pressures in that. Use a reliable pressure gauge. So basically most cars should actually come with a pressure gauge or a pump. So if your car tires are a bit low, you can actually pump them up yourself. You should have a little dial on there that tells you what pressures they currently are, or in most modern cars, it'll actually tell you in your display what pressures actually are. It's always best to check and adjust the tire pressures when they're cold, so maybe first thing in the morning before you drive. The reason for that is, as you're driving, the tires get warm, air expands, so if you were to check them when the tires are warm or hot, it'll give you an incorrect reading. If you've got a spare tire, check that one as well, because you might need to use that in an emergency. Question number three, tell me how you make sure your head restraint is correctly adjusted so it provides the best protection in the event of a crash. So the head restraint should be adjusted so the rigid part of the head restraint is at least as high as the eye or the top of the ears and as close to the back of the head as is comfortable. Some head restraints might not be adjustable. So your head restraint has to be adjusted for your height. So make sure, the way I normally teach it is that the top of your head should not be so much higher than the top of your head restraint. If it is higher and you're tall, you can adjust the head restraint up. In this car, it does actually move up like we've seen before. You've got a little button here, you can push it back down again. This one does not adjust forwards and backwards either, so it just goes up and down in these minis. Question number four is, tell me how you check your tires have sufficient tread depth and that the general condition is safe to use on the road. So there should be no cuts or bulges on the sidewall of the tire. There should be a minimum of 1.6 millimeters of tread depth across the central 3/4 breadth of the tire and around the entire outer circumference of the tire itself. So this is the sidewall of the tyre, that section just there, okay, between that bit. That shouldn't have any cuts or air bulges on the sidewall of the tyre. That would normally happen, cuts would happen if you've hit the curb and that's actually caused the tyre to rip open. That's an MOT failure, so that means technically your insurance is invalid. If you do get stopped by the police, then you might have an issue with that as well. The main thing is obviously a cut in the sidewall of the tyre is going to be dangerous to drive on. It might pop open under high speed, and if it pops open, well, you're going to lose control of the car and crash. And obviously, that's not good. So an air pocket, you might have a little bubble on the side wall of the tyre. Again, the tyre's been hit into the curb, causing damage. Again, that could result in an MOT failure as well. So best to actually get the tyre completely changed so there's absolutely no damage in any of your tyres. Always a good idea to always check all of your tyres before a journey to make sure that they're actually safe to drive on. So talking about the tread depth, there should be a minimum of 1.6 millimeters of tread depth in the central 3/4 breadth of the tyre, which is that section just there, okay, all the way around, around the entire outer circumference of the tyre. So this is the tread depth itself, okay. You do actually have tread depth wear indicators, which is just there. You can just about see them. Also marked
if you can't really see where they are, you can look at the sidewall. So see that little triangle there? That's a little arrow pointing to where the tread depth indicators actually are placed on your tyres. Now, they are 1.6 millimeters. Once it gets to that level, this gets flats with that level, time to get the tyres changed. But always best to actually change your tyres before that time anyway.
Question number 5. Tell me how you check your headlights and tail lights are working. Now for this, you don't need to get it out of the vehicle. You just explain it. So you'd explain how you'd switch on the lights. Now you might need to turn your ignition lights on. Then you'd walk around the vehicle to make sure all your headlights and your tail lights are working. If they're not working, get the bulb changed. Question number 6. Tell me how you'd know if there was a problem with your anti-lock braking system, your ABS. So if there was a problem, a warning light will light up in your dash to tell you that there's a fault with your anti-lock braking system. Question number 7, tell me how you'd know if your direction indicators are working. Now again, you don't need to exit the vehicle to check this. You just explain how to do it. So you explain how you'd operate the switch, turn the ignition off if necessary, then walk around the vehicle. As this is a tell me question, you don't need to physically check the lights and get out. The best way is to put on your hazard warning lights. Here's the switch. Always identified by the red triangle, meaning hazard warning. Question number 8, tell me how you know your brake lights are working on this car. So you'd explain, you'd press the brake pedal and check for reflections, maybe on a brick wall, a garage door, house windows, or you can ask somebody to help you, like a family member or a friend. Question number 9, tell me how you check the power assisted steering is working before you start a journey. Now if the steering becomes too heavy, the system might not be working properly. So before starting a journey, you can make 2 simple checks. So as I try to steer now, that's actually pretty solid, okay? It's not possible to really steer safely. So if that is the case, there may be a problem with your power steering. Now with the engine back on again, I can actually steer very easily and there's not a problem whatsoever. Sometimes, if there is an issue with your power steering, you may also have a warning light come up in your dash. It looks like a steering wheel. But the best way to check would be drive away slowly, gentle pressure on the steering wheel. If it turns and it's nice and smooth, you know it's working just fine. Question number 10, tell me how you switch on the rear fog lights and when you would use it. So again, you don't need to exit the vehicle, you just press the button and explain to the examiner how you'd switch it on. So to put the fog lights on, you would need to have the ignition on. So you'd switch your ignition on, put your lights on, pretty much on the dipped beam, press the rear fog light button, and they should actually come on. Once you put your fog lights on, you'll have that little light come up in your dash telling you your rear fog light is on. Some cars also have a front fog light, but not every car does. Once you put your front fog lights on, the warning light will come on in your dash as well. Question number 11 is, tell me how you switch your headlight from dipped to main beam and explain how you'd know the main beam is on. So the ignition you'd put on, you'd put your headlights on. That's your normal headlight switch. It is flashing away, but I'll show you the other one. And then once you press your full beam, the blue light will illuminate in your dials, and it's always a blue light, and that will tell you your full beam is on. In every car, it's going to be different how you switch on your full beam. So check out your manual and it will tell you how you're going to put it on in your car. But in this car, push it away, pushes the full beam on, pull it towards you, switches the full beam off. Now 3 of those tell me questions, you'll be asked to open the bonnet and check for the oil level, the engine coolant level, and your brake fluid level. So question 12 is, open the bonnet and tell me how you check that the engine has sufficient oil. So you'll open the bonnet, identify the dipstick, and check that the oil level is between the minimum and the maximum markers.
Now to open the lever in this car, you've got to pull this lever here. Sometimes it could be located under your steering column, but in mine it's just here. So what you'll do is pull it twice on minis. First one will actually open the bonnet. Second pull will actually unlock it. Then all you need to do is actually just simply lift up the bonnet like so. Now this one's actually on gas struts, so there's sometimes you get a lever either sideways or in front of the car, in front of your engine bay rather. You lift that lever up and actually plonk it up somewhere, and that would hold the bonnet up. So the engine oil level, you'll check it by finding the dipstick. In this car, it's this lever just here. All you do is actually pull that lever out and then measure or check the engine oil level is between the minimum and the maximum markers. You can maybe just about see it there. It's actually quite dirty. All you do then is wipe it down with a clean cloth or a tissue or something, pop it back in again and pull it back out and then check it so you can see the level is actually correct.
So question number 13 is open the bonnet and tell me how you check that the engine has sufficient engine coolant. So you identify the high and low level markers of the header tank where fitted or the radiator filler cap and describe how to top the correct level.
So the engine coolant bottle is this bottle just here in my car, normally identified with that yellow symbol there. You're going to check the engine coolant level is going to be between the minimum and the maximum markers. You normally have them written on the side somewhere, but stupidly Mini have actually got the level marker indicator inside the bottle. So never ever open this when the engine is hot. Let the engine completely cool down and then it should be safe to open it. You could, dangers of opening that when it's hot is, well, you're going to scold yourself and that's not going to be nice.
Question number 14 is open the bonnet and tell me how you check that you have a safe level of hydraulic brake fluid.
The brake fluid reservoir is normally hidden or placed towards the back of the engine bay, more close to the bulkhead under your windscreen, most likely there. So here's the actual reservoir itself, normally a white bottle with, again, a black cap with yellow writing, and there's our symbol for a brake fluid. Now again, you should have the minimum and the maximum markers. You can see where it says maximum and minimum there, and also on this side as well. Sometimes it's difficult to actually see the fluid, so what you can do is shine a light on the other side of it so you can actually see what level your fluid is at. Your brake fluid should be between the minimum and the maximum markers. Once you've done all your checks, all you do is close the bonnet, and all you do is just lower it down gently. And what I like to do is from a distance, about a foot away from the actual close, just let it go and it's shut. You can actually rest it down and then push down as well. That's okay. Done.
Now while you're driving on the test, you'll be asked a series of show me questions. Now they'll be done while you are driving. It's really important that you take your time and do it safely. The examiner will say when it's safe to do so, and then he'll ask you the question. But what you need to do is read the road ahead. If it's safe to actually carry out what he's asked you to do it. If you've got an urgent situation that you need to deal with that first of all. Then maybe ask the examiner to repeat the question if you've forgotten what he's asked you to do. If you remembered it, carry it out. Easy. So question number 1 is, when it's safe to do so, can you show me how you wash and clean the rear windscreen or the rear window? So in this car, here's the lever on the right side of the steering wheel to operate the front and the rear washer jets and the windscreen wipers as well. Let's look at the rear, how to wash it. So we've got off and on. We don't want to put it onto on. If you're putting it on, it just wipes that rear window, but we won't actually want to wash it, so we twist it downwards. Here's a symbol to wash wipe, and it's also got one at the bottom there as well. So if I twist it down, we can see it squirting liquid onto the window, and it gives it a wipe as well, and then we just let it go. Question 2 of the show me questions is, when it's safe to do so, show me how you'd wash and clean the front windscreen. All we do is pull the lever towards us, hold it for a few seconds, and then let go. As soon as you've got some water, some fluid squirted onto that windscreen, let the lever go. Otherwise, you're going to have a windscreen full of water and you're not going to be able to see very clearly. Question 3 of the show me is, when it's safe to do so, can you show me how you switch on your dipped headlights? So just simply to switch on your dipped lights while you're driving, you'd actually operate the switch over to the right hand side, switch it back off again unless you need them on, and that's it. Question number 4 of the show me is, when it's safe to do so, can you show me how you set the rear demister? So the rear demister in my car is this button just here. You can tell back, it shows like a square window. All you do is press it, light little light comes on, press it again to switch it back off, and that's it. Question number 5 of the show me questions is, when it's safe to do so, can you show me how you'd operate the horn? Now when you press the horn, be sure it's safe to do so. Don't do it at a busy junction where you're going to alert or alarm other drivers. Don't do it when you're near pedestrians that you might startle them unless you're making them aware of your presence. The purpose of the horn is to alert drivers and pedestrians and cyclists of your presence. And then quite easy, all you do to operate the horn is literally just one little press, that's it. Question number 6 is, when it's safe to do so, show me how you demist the front windscreen.
it'll be this button here to demist the front windscreen. All you do is again press it, and then what you can do is actually set your fan speed up to high. That button should automatically set fan speed high, as you can see, or here, it's pretty noisy. If it's too noisy, turn it back down. But the good idea is to leave it as high as possible, so you can really demist that front windscreen very quickly. Once it's set, switch it back off again. But on your driving test, if you get asked this question, most likely your window is going to be clear, hopefully anyway. All you do is press it and switch it straight back off again.
Question number 7 of the show me questions is, when it's safe to do so, can you show me how you'd open and close a side window? Now, this doesn't matter if you open a front window or a back window or your left or your right window. It doesn't really matter. You're going to press the button, whichever one you want, and then just half open it and then close it again. Hands back on steering and you carry on again.